Today's speaker is Harold Crump. Raised in small towns throughout Mississippi, Mr. Crump earned an undergraduate degree in 1953 at the University of Mississippi. His first job after graduation was an assistant advertising manager of the Blytheville Courier New Journal in Arkansas. While his first job was not in broadcasting, he quickly made the change and for decades was one of the most recognized executives in the broadcasting world. For more than 23 years, Mr. Crump has served as Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Hubbard Broadcasting. Mr. Crump was Oprah Winfrey's boss when she started in Nashville at WTVF-TV. In 2010, Mr. Crump and his wife, Leigh, attended Oprah's show. Near the end of the show, Oprah told the audience, "Harold Crump, my first boss. Harold Crump, stand up." Harold Crump, my first boss in television, impressed me so much, and his wife, Leigh, Oprah said, "Let me tell you this. Years ago, when I was making $112 a week, Harold called us all upstairs. This was Thanksgiving. He was going to give us a turkey, but it turned out he gave us a week's pay. Because of that, for 24 years, I have given a week's pay to every one of my staff for Christmas and Thanksgiving." Oprah's comments make it clear that today's speaker is not an executive who has led in ordinary ways. Throughout his career, his tenacious commitment has been to pursue excellence and serve others. We are proud to have him as our speaker today. Welcome home, Harold.
Thank you very much. Let's not forget what Garrison Keillor has said. He says, "A commencement speech is like a dark cloud over a beautiful sunny day." So beware. And now, an official good afternoon and congratulations for what has obviously been excellent work on your part for several years. And congratulations to you parents for raising such smart kids. And I want to begin by thanking Dean Norton for inviting me to be here with you today. My graduation day from Ole Miss was one of the proudest moments in my life, and I hope that your memories of this great institution are just as fond as are mine. I'm not here today because I am more talented or intelligent than others in my field. I'm here because I'm lucky. It's always been said it's better to be lucky than to be good. Well, all my life I have been blessed, and my career has proven it. As you heard, I was here in Ole Miss advertising as a major, and I graduated in 1953. I got a commission in the Air Force ROTC that year, and out of 11,800 that were getting their commissions, 9 men were selected as an experiment by the Air Force. Apparently, what they wanted to do as an experiment never worked because they never did it again. But the 9 of us reported to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. They processed us into the Air Force and overseas at the same time, and 5 days later, we were on boats headed places, and I was going to Germany for the German occupation. I was sent to the largest Air Force base in Europe, which was right outside of Munich, Germany, in Erding. The commanding general and all of the bird colonels at that base were all ROTC graduates from the South. And here I am, one of 9 as an experiment. You talk about somebody having it made. It was unbelievable how good they were to me and what I was able to do. As a result of this, when ordinarily a general would not have known a second lieutenant from the wall, at the end of my first year was the end of his 3-year tour. And he also had a small base 20 miles away in Freising, Germany, which today is where the Munich airport is located. I was called into the general's office, and I was asked by the general if I would like to transfer to Freising. Well, I had it made where I was, and I said no. This irritated the general, and so he told me, "By golly, you're going to go." And then what was over there were 900 men and 200 families. It was the NATO Electronic School, and it was the United States Air Force Europe NCO Academy. And there were 3 captains over there who ran these 2 groups, and the 3rd captain ran the squadron that had the radar warning net for all of southern Germany. And our general would go over once a month, and he would inspect them, and he'd try to tell them what to do. And of course, the captains reported to someone else, so they didn't want anything to do with him, and they fought all the time. So the general said to me, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to make you the base commander over there in Freising. You will be over these 3 captains. They will have to report to a second lieutenant, and this will be the most upsetting thing that happens to them in their entire lives." I couldn't believe it. I went over there. I had a staff car and a driver. I could have any house in town I wanted if I wanted to kick people out because with occupation, but I didn't do that. I was in an apartment complex that we're building nearby, and I ended up with the new general coming over once a month to inspect, and the other 27 days were mine. I could write my own 3-day passes consecutively, and I traveled all over Europe and had one of the most wonderful times I ever had in my life. So I'm telling you this again to let you know it's good to be lucky. The first television job that I had, as he told you about my first job in Blytheville, was at the CBS affiliate in Nashville, Tennessee. And 20 years later, I became the general manager of that station, having worked in every single department in the station. 5 years later, I was transferred to Houston, and there I ran a group of stations. As I kept up with the success of those stations, I came to realize even more so that the most important department in any station, be it radio or television, is the news department, your department. Every general manager knows that if you can draw a local audience to the local stations that is large, you've got it made in the rest of the station's programming. So everything else becomes easier. And now I want to digress a bit, and I want to give you my congratulations for the tremendous recognition that you students have received for your work here at Ole Miss. And I'm going to read this because I don't want to get them wrong, and I do want all you parents and friends to hear this. For an unprecedented 3rd year in a row, Newswatch 99 won the Best Student Newscast at the Mississippi Associated Press Broadcasters Banquet, and the Rebel Radio won the Best Student News Story. You won 5 first places and 11, you won 5 first places and 11 finalist awards from the Society of Professional Journalists, and the Nationals are still pending today. And in Southeast Journalism, in their contest, you won 20 awards, including 4 first places and the annual Best of the South contest. Now let's hear it. Again, my heartiest congratulations to you because you do that. But no matter what type of news organization you choose to enter now, you're going to be beginning a career that can literally change the lives of viewers, listeners, or readers. You have already been influencing the decisions that are made here on the campus for these last 4 years. I know that some of you chose to produce a Monday through Friday half-hour news television program. Some of you worked on the Monday through Friday Ole Miss newspaper, and some of you have worked in Ole Miss radio. But again, to have the ability to make the decision that you made to pick which one of those you wanted tells you how correct your first decision was to come to Ole Miss, because that doesn't happen at a lot of other schools. And I'm going to tell you now, too, that you are going to enjoy the work that you're about to get into. You will be so glad that you made this decision time and again. But let's talk about the responsibilities that come with these jobs. In the late 80s, I owned the CBS affiliate in Charleston, South Carolina. And in September of 1989, a hurricane named Hugo blew in. It was larger than the state of South Carolina when it came ashore, and it was the first hurricane there in 100 years. No electric power was there for the next 2 weeks in that entire area. And the other television stations that were there simply chose to ride the networks and let everything else happen as it would. But we had taken our entire staff and their families and their pets inland 20 miles to try to ride out the hurricane, because we didn't know how high the water surge would be that came in and whether or not it would come over Charleston. It did come in, but fortunately it missed Charleston, and it was pretty good, 31 feet high. It's one of the highest that has ever come ashore on a hurricane that came into the United States. So we got in our cars the next morning, we rode back in, and we saw the tremendous devastation that had happened. We went straight to our television tower, and we set up there immediately with our portable cameras to start trying to telecast back. And it suddenly dawned on me, nobody's got any power here. Nobody's going to see this. In those days, this is 1989, there weren't that many portable television sets that would run on batteries and such. Well, I realized that when I had purchased this station 4 years earlier from the company that owned it, they also owned a radio station, and its antenna was on top of our tower as well. So I said to the chief engineer, let's put that thing on the air now because people have portable radios, they'll be able to hear us. During the daylight hours, of course, the entire state was wiped, so we had already realized that there was no radio signal coming in. It couldn't come in. At night, you would get radio signals, but they were coming from Chicago and New York and all over the place as they normally do at night. So he said, well, that's fine, but you can't do it. And I said, why not? He said, because it's against regulations, you don't have the ability to do so, and you don't have the permission to do so. I said, that's where you're wrong. I got the ability to do so, and with that, I kicked the door in. We turned on the transmitter, and we told people on the air that we were doing both together, and we would continue to do both together. Overnight, we found out that our studio there in downtown Charleston had received power because we were right next to the largest hospital that was there in Charleston, and therefore, when they were beginning to get power coming in and creating it themselves or generating it, we got it too. So we started the next morning at 6 a.m., and we went live from 6 a.m. until 12 midnight. Now, the reason I'm telling you all of this is because we took our reporters who were there, and we put them on a 24-hour schedule. They turned into immediately some of the most important people in the entire area. Why? Because we could tell people where they could go and get food that was being brought in, there was none otherwise, where they could get water that was coming in that was fit to drink, where they could get clothing, where they could get anything that was needed at this point. But what I haven't told you is, back, as you know, Charleston is a historic town, and back when they put telephone ins many, many years earlier, they decided they did not want to put telephone lines up to be seen because this is not what historic Charleston had had during the war. So what they did instead was they buried those lines, and then, amazingly enough, they decided they would bury a special generator system based on electric batteries that would give them enough power to keep going for 2 weeks at a time. So weirdly, you had no power in your home, you couldn't get lights, you couldn't get anything going, you couldn't cook, the restaurants didn't have them, the grocery stores didn't have them, but you had a telephone that worked. You could call anybody in the United States, you could call each other. So what we did with our reporters was we said to them, you have got your radios to talk to us, but you can also use the telephone. So what they did was they went out, and suddenly they became the voice of what was needed in this entire area. They were telling people there's been a wreck, telling us to tell them there's been a wreck at so-and-so, and we need an ambulance because somebody's been hurt. So we're going on the air saying to the police, please send an ambulance to so-and-so or the hospital, or we just need a tow truck because it's that. Person would call and say, my wife is having a baby, I need a doctor. So we're saying, please get us a doctor to this. And all the things that are going on that are happening with all of this, accidents that occur where someone breaks a leg or falls down in a swimming pool and almost drowns. Our reporters are calling back, and then we're telling people what's happening, and we're telling others that they need to go there and what they need to do. So our reporters realized that they had become the most important people, basically, in the entire town to hold it together. And what we did was, or what I should say, not what we did, but what resulted was the entire population of that area suddenly realized we were their station, and as I'm told today, not owning it, it still is that way. The next year, our station, for what we had done, received every single national television award that was given in the nation. And then the New York International Television Festival gave us their award as the best local television station in the world, beating one in Hong Kong and one in France. Now, the reason I'm telling you about all of this is if you find yourself in a situation like I just described, and your company does not do the right thing, it rode around on the network like the others did, you need to leave it. Get out right then, because your career is going to be somewhat dependent upon where you are and what you are learning as you go along. I want to point out to you also that you never know where your first reported job can lead. You just heard about me and Oprah Winfrey, but what you should realize is she started out as a reporter, a trainee reporter that I talked into going on the air when she didn't want to. And then from that, she went into being a news anchor. And of course, she was just super at that. She had that great personality. She stayed with me for 8 years, and we owned the ratings there in Nashville, Tennessee. And then she went to Baltimore, and she got into interviewing on the side. And so again, I'm telling you this story because as you think today, you know what you want to do, and you've made the right decision based on what has already occurred with you here. You don't know where this can lead. Learning to interview can lead you into doing totally other things from what you're thinking of today. So I think, again, what you have chosen to do going into this line of work is really, really good. When you're in the middle of a breaking story, as you all will be in your various jobs from time to time, you'll get the inside story at that stage. You'll be recognized on the street by people coming by, and you'll get confidential information from very influential people, and it will make you feel important. And the reason it will is because you are. You have chosen a profession that is going to make you important. But, and this is a big but, there will be a payback time. There will be a crossroads where you will either choose a self-serving direction or you will commit yourself again to career growth. You who have been entrusted with care for the public airways and papers' contents will be called upon to put aside your personal interests and provide public service. And it will not be easy, but it is a must. For you to succeed and advance in your profession, that's what you must do, and you must be thinking about this. 3 years ago, my close friend, Dan Rather, was your speaker here at this commencement, and I'm sure probably most of you attended that occasion. But the reason I bring him up is because he has published another book. It's called Rather Outspoken, and you should buy it and you should read it. And the reason is because it goes into detail of his firing at CBS, and he gives the names and the actions of every single person involved. And when you read it, you will see how he was picked as the whipping boy for purely political reasons. And as I said, it's detailed into the smallest action. But then think what happened to him from there. Because he had been doing the right things on CBS for all those years, his opportunities still opened up. And as you know from him being here, the one that he chose has made him very, very successful. And again, this comes back to what you must think about and do as you go through your life and your career. If you are doing the right thing, if you are establishing a reputation for yourself, if something goes wrong, others will know what you have done and they will come in to help you. Now, I want to close, and in closing, I want to thank Dean Norton again for allowing me to be your commencement speaker. I want to thank each of you for enduring my stories and my advice. And I want you to go forth now and live your lives. I want you to enjoy your profession, and I want you to never, ever let disappointments deter you from what goals you have set for yourselves today. You are now Ole Miss graduates, and that means you have come from the best of all universities. You chose correctly there. You have chosen well in what you're doing now, and I think that you are going to be pleased with your profession and with your lives from this day forward. I thank you for your courteous attention to all my stories, and my congratulations to you because you deserve it and because you're here. Thank you.